Hey, everyone. So I get to close the show. This is great. This is a really tech-heavy talk, so I hope you're prepared. Only messing. No, this is actually very simple. All I'm going to do is Nuxtify you, Jamstackify you, and that's it. OK, so let's go. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Full static with Nuxt. So a little bit about me. I'm a front-end tech lead in Patterson agency in Mallorca in Spain. I contribute to Webpack. I'm a writer for Ultimate Courses, a teacher at Vue School, and an organizer of Mallorca.js and Vue Spain. And as of today, I am now officially a Nuxt team member. But I have to pass a test. I was told that in order to be actually officially baptized, I have to do a dance on stage at a Vue.js conference. So maybe at the end, if you're all still here and you're all still awake, I might do that dance. We'll see. OK, moving on. I'm also a media developer expert for Cloudinary, a Google developer expert, and a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. And this is my most favorite place to work. I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but this was my office for 16 days, and it was absolutely fantastic. So the benefits of Nuxt, what Jake said, because basically everything that he said also applies to Nuxt. No, seriously, what Philip said. Benefits of Nuxt, seriously, what Sebastian said. OK, so now that we've got that all clear and we all know the benefits of Nuxt, let's move on. Gridsim or Nuxt, whatever, just go static. OK, that's the thing. We all want you to go static, but use Nuxt. So why static? Sorry, Jake. No server, so it's cheaper and safer. You've got better offline support. There's better performance. And it reduces the carbon footprint. Seriously. Callum McRae told us yesterday. Climate change in the tech community. It's a serious issue. Just yesterday in the paper, I live in Spain, so I'm sorry this is in Spanish, but just yesterday in the paper, the Antarctic is in risk because of global warming. Seriously, this is a problem. And as Callum says, what has this got to do with us? And you know what? Last year, if Callum had given that talk, I would have went, yeah, Callum, whatever. You know, I put my recycling in the recycling bin, and that's about it. You know, what do I care? And to be honest, I didn't really care, because it's like, what am I going to do? What difference can I make? I'm just one person. I'm building a website. I had, like, you know, we've got WordPress server, website. We've got all this stuff. We're not going to make much difference. But then I spent 16 days on a ship going to Antarctica, and last month I was actually in Antarctica, and I was able to witness the most beautiful place in the world, and I was able to see the effects, and then it kind of went, oh my God, we're like destroying this. It's just amazing. If you've never been there, seriously, you should go. It is absolutely amazing, and it's very, very serious. So we need to like protect Antarctica, because it's out of this world. So we need to do everything we can to protect this. As Callum mentioned yesterday, in Antarctica they registered 20.7 degrees. And you might say, OK, that is very hot, but what's the normal? The highest temperatures normally, it would be 4 degrees. So that's an increase of 16 degrees. So it's a serious problem. So, but static is very static. Or is it? So this is an iceberg. These are all my photos, by the way. So this is what I see. This is an iceberg. And I'm going to ask you, is an iceberg static? Who here thinks an iceberg is static? Nobody. Who here thinks an iceberg is dynamic? See, it's weird. We don't know, because that's not really doing anything. It's the sea that's moving it. It's pretty static, but it's the sea that moves it. It changes because of the weather. It melts. This is another one. They change shape. And obviously, they break off. We actually witnessed one actually breaking off. We could hear the crack and see it actually all fall apart, but I didn't have time to take the photo. But yeah, is an iceberg static? Is it dynamic? The problem is static really static? We don't really have a clue, do we? It just depends on when we look at things, and then we can kind of define if static is static or not. So dynamic, when it comes to static sites, is our APIs. Our APIs are what makes everything dynamic. We've got like things like forms come through the APIs, CMSs, we can have all our data coming from there, all our content, authentication, e-commerce. We can do absolutely anything we want thanks to the APIs. Headless CMS, for example. Okay, so if you've got your content, we can use, there are many different headless CMSs. You've got Contentful, you've got Craft CMS, you've got Storyblock, you've got Sanity, you've got WordPress, for those that have to use it. Not saying anything against it, but yeah. So we've got a lot more than this, okay? But I was kind of like, for this talk, and I was testing out, these are the ones I tested. I was testing out a lot of CMSs just to see what the easiest one was, that I just want to set up really quickly. I'm not really going to sell this to a customer. I just want to use it. I want to build something very, very fast. And for me, after playing around with so many of them, the easiest one to get up and running was Netlify CMS. Anyone here used Netlify CMS? Okay, a few of you. So I encourage you, if you're trying to build a CMS or trying to use a CMS and you haven't, use Netlify CMS. It looks like this, so it's pretty straightforward. You can, you can see what you need to do. New blog, very simple. And then you get something like this, where you just fill it in, and you've got a really nice preview, so you can preview it all before you publish it. So it's really simple. I'm going to show you quickly how to set it up. You basically have to, in your static file, put an admin folder, and you need a config YAML file and index HTML file. And you can basically just get this from the Netlify docs. So in the Netlify docs is actually a section for Nuxt, so don't go to the normal part, just scroll down a little bit. You'll see Nuxt, and then take that index HTML file, copy it, paste it, put it in, simple. The YAML file as well, copy it, paste it, put it in, easy, right? And then if you want to modify something, you can create something different here. You can put a description, you can put an image, you can put whatever you want here. And that's pretty much the slug. I called it slug. You could put the date, you could put whatever you want. And then you obviously have a blog folder with your index view and your dynamic blog post page. So simple. And then you have, this is my beautiful blog. I've got 2 blog posts. So that's my index view. And then I've got my blog view detail page, which shows the blog post. And that's pretty much it. I hope you like my theme, because I'm a really bad designer. So I bought a $5 theme on Theme Forest, best $5 I've ever spent. And then I just Nuxtified it. Then I got really annoyed with the CSS, because it was, oh my God, threw it in the bin and just used Tailwind. So, so there we go. It's not finished. There's a lot more work to do. So then we need to have Nuxt dynamic routes, right? So we've now got our v4 that's crawling through all our blog posts that's coming from Netlify. And in order to get the dynamic routes, we need to create the generate. In the generate object, we need to create the routes function and basically map over all of our routes, yeah? And basically then we can have the dynamic routes coming from the Netlify CMS. But, as we heard yesterday, we have the Nuxt Crawler coming, and all this, we don't have to do this anymore. So at the moment, if you want to do it, that's in the documentation for Netlify. You can copy that code and you can put it in, and it will work. But very, very soon, you're not going to need this. And all you got to do is write your code, your v4, for every post in your blog post with a Nuxt Sling tag. Once you have the Nuxt Sling tag, it will crawl all those Nuxt Sling tags, and it will then basically create all those for you. Now, of course, Sebastian told me he was going to do this, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's not going to work, And I never believe anything he says. So I tried it out for myself. It's in my code. It's running, and it works, and it's generating it. Okay, so it does work. So as soon as he officially releases it, you will see that you can just not write that function, and then basically you'll have all those pages generated. So it's not just for blogs, right? We're going to create static sites. A lot of people think static sites are just for blogs, and I've just basically told you how to build a blog. So that's good, isn't it? But no, they're not just for blogs. So you can use anything. So if you have like a load of data, on my website I have, I'm showing off my website again. I need to really improve my styles. But I have a page of my conferences, because I forget which conferences I'm going to next. So I have a load of data. It goes all the way down, and I've got a one for workshops as well. So I don't want to put this in a CMS. I just want to have data. I want to be very easily go to the next conference, update it, add it, etc. But I'm not a back-end developer, so I don't have much experience with databases. Therefore, I'm like, ooh, okay, what am I going to do? Just put it on a JSON, just call it from the JSON, but that's kind of really annoying. So the best solution I came across was Hasura. Has anyone heard of or is using Hasura? Okay, not that many. Okay, so Hasura is absolutely fantastic. You get a real-time GraphQL APIs instantly. It's open source, and it connects your database and microservices, and it auto-generates a production-ready GraphQL backend. And that sounds really scary, right? So I have absolutely no experience with GraphQL, never used Hasura until I basically started to make this talk, and I think it took me 2.5, 3 hours to get this up and running. So when I say seriously, it is easy, don't think, because everyone thinks, no, the speakers on the stage, they know everything, and they're really, really good at everything. We're not. So seriously, I'm going to show you quickly how it works. So to add a table, it's very, very simple. This is what you get, and you basically add the table name, add the columns, add the column type. Is it a string? Is it a date? Default value if you have one. Is it unique? Add a primary key. It's quite simple, right? So you just kind of fill all this in, and then you get your table here with everything, and you can edit, you can delete, you can update it. So it's really, really nice interface to work with, and it's really, really, really simple. And then you get this endpoint. So if you all know how GraphQL works, that you get one endpoint. So this is the endpoint that they give you, and that's how I'm now going to access all the data that I need to access. So it's really, really nice to work with, much better than REST and all those endpoints. So the GraphQL Playground is built into Hasura. So when you want to then get your data, you have your Explorer here, and you basically say, OK, so I want the alt tag, I want the date, I want the duration, I want the ID, the image, the name, the place, etc. And then it basically gives you everything you want. Now, you could write that yourself if you want to. So some people are like, I'm going to type it out. Or you can just click the buttons. That depends on whatever you want. I prefer to click the buttons because then I don't make a mistake. And then you just press the play button. And then that basically just gives you the actual JSON. So you can look at it and you can kind of say, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Or that's not, or I'm missing this. And then the code in the middle is exactly the code that you're going to put into your Nuxt app to be able to get that data. So it's very, very simple. You can seriously do this in such little time. So once you have this, then you just got to call the GraphQL API. So you can use Nuxt.js Apollo. So you install it, put it into your modules in your Nuxt config file. And then basically in your Apollo, all the documentation will tell you how to do this. So I'm not going to go through it too much. And this code, don't worry about it too much. The only thing you have to do is put in your own endpoint in there. Everything else, just copy it, paste it, and then just change your endpoint. So it's kind of pretty simple and straightforward. And then you've just got to add your query. So we're using the GraphQL tag. Basically, this was the workshops one. So workshops, you can order by date, description, title, topic, date, etc. And then for Apollo, you just add in your loading key and your workshops with a query of workshops. And now I have access to that in my page. So in the network tab, we then call that API. So if you open the network tab, you can see that it's calling the Heroku app, which is where Hasura is. And basically, you can see the request URL of where it is. So that's pretty much it. It's working, and it's very, very simple to set up. And then what happens? You go to the conference. You need to add, something else. So you need to add your data, and then you need to generate on update. So I want to update my data every time I press save. Every time I add new data, I want to update my static site and rebuild it. So to do that, you create a new event trigger. So in the events tab in Hasura, create a new event trigger. It's very simple. You put in a trigger name, whatever you want to call it. Choose the table that you want to update, so the conferences table or the workshops table. And choose if you want to insert, update, delete. And then you need to put in the webhook URL. OK, so that's pretty simple so far. You all with me, yeah? Yeah? Am I going too fast? Do I go back? OK. And then if you're using Netlify, because I use Netlify because it's great, you just need to use a build hook. So go to the build hooks section of Netlify, add in your build hook name, your branch's master, and save. That's pretty simple and straightforward. That's all you've got to do. And now all we have to do after that is add the URL to Hasura. So the URL we got from Netlify, which is this. This is the test one. So if you take a photograph of this and try to ruin my Netlify minutes, it won't work because I deleted it. And then you just put this into the webhook URL in Hasura, and now that's it. It's going to update on every single time I press save or add a new piece of content, etc. So that's pretty cool and pretty straightforward, right? And there we go. It's deploying from Netlify, and it's deploying by the Hasura event trigger. So really cool. Actually, when I was playing around with this, and I was just saving things, and then I almost used up all my minutes. So that was fun. I got a warning. Yay. So maybe not do it all the time. Maybe when you're developing, build it for later. So Nuxt Hydration. A static site becomes dynamic because of the hydration process. OK? So how does the hydration process work? What Sarah said. Hydration lets us deliver fast and secure sites and still have a reactive UI. So that's how hydration works. And Sarah's right when she said, like, a lot of people are asking how hydration works, and it is kind of confusing. So I'm going to take it down a notch, and I'm going to explain it in a very, very simple way. Icebergs. I love icebergs. So this is a penguin up there, and the penguin is the API. The penguin is the dynamic content, and the penguin is what makes that iceberg dynamic. It hydrates the iceberg. More penguins. So this penguin here brings it to life. And some more. Aren't they so cool? So this is basically how your Nuxt application works. You've got your static site, and you've got dynamic penguins on top of it. OK, so the Nuxt static module. You call the API on the page change. That's how it's working at the moment. So if any of you have built a static site, you will know that the first time it loads, you're calling that staticness. But then as soon as you change and go to the next page, you are actually making an API call every time, which can be quite annoying because, you know, maybe your API has changed and you haven't updated the page and there can be some discrepancies. But that's all going to change. And with the static module, you will call the payload on page change. So that basically means everything is just, there's no discrepancies, and it's just much better. So calling the payload, I have in my code on the conferences page, because I stole Sebastian's code before he released it and started playing around with it. So the conferences page is coming from the payload, and as you can see, that's what it would look like. The workshops page was coming from the GraphQL, so you saw, yeah? And that's basically calling the payload instead of the GraphQL. That's basically how it works on every page change. You're calling that content that's inside your payloads folder, inside your Nuxt folder. So the Nuxt static module, instead of Apollo Smart Queries, you need to use async data, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, so if you're going to build this tomorrow, you need to make that minor change until the target static is released. So when that's released, then you'll be able to use the Apollo Smart Queries just like I showed in the previous example. But for now, if you're going to build it today or tomorrow, you basically need to write in your async data, and you need to use the Apollo provider and basically your response, await your client query, and return your data. Okay, so that's just the only minor change you've got to do if you're going to use a static module for now. But you're not going to have to do that as soon as that's released. So Nuxt static module, you don't have to expose your API to the public, so that's kind of cool. You can decide when to publish new content from your API by regenerating your website. Fully static is much faster. API calls have latency, so it always takes longer. Payload files are cached, and offline support with PWA module. So Nuxt static module is really, really cool. I'm really excited. So to convert your site to a static site, so is anyone here actually building Nuxt sites? Yeah, okay. Keep your hands up if you're building Nuxt static sites. Okay, not enough of you. Okay. So if you have a Nuxt site and it's not static, all you've got to do is make a very small change. If it's a single-page application, change your mode to universal. If you're in server-side rendering, then you've already in mode universal. So just change your build command to Nuxt generate. That's it. I mean, it is as simple as that. Okay, if you have dynamic routes, you might have to, work on that. But that's pretty much all you need to do to test it out and say, oh, look, now I have a static site. So I encourage you to go and check that out. Now, that is how you need to do it today. Coming soon, obviously, the target static is going to be slightly different, and you're going to have to use Nuxt build and Nuxt export. But for now, you can test that out and make static sites. And as soon as this is released, then it's going to be even better. Can you have a single-page application inside a static site? Anyone know the answer? Can you? Yeah, we're all doubting. Yes, you can. So you can have a single-page application inside a static site, and you're probably thinking, why on earth would I want that, right? Well, we built a static site. We built a travel application, a travel agency application, and we had a booking engine. We don't want to statically generate the booking engine. I don't know what hotel they're going to choose, how many children they're going to have, etc. So you can keep that as a static site, or you can keep that, as a single-page application inside your static site. And the way to do that is inside your generate, you put fallback true, and you exclude booking. Booking is the folder that has all those files. So I'm excluding that one from the static generation. So that's kind of really cool because you can now statically generate your site and have parts of it that are not statically generated. Obviously, you're not going to have server-side rendering, so if you care about search engine optimization, etc., then that's not your best option. But if you don't need it for things like a booking engine, then this works absolutely perfect. So why static sites? That's the question. because Sarah Drasner said so. Not having a single point of origin server, doesn't need to make subsequent requests, better security because they don't have to access a server, amazing performance, better security again. So seriously, static sites are our future. Why static? Like I said, no server, better offline support, better performance, and reduces the carbon footprint. And seriously take this into mind because I spent 16 days on a cruise ship with absolutely terrible Wi-Fi. It's really hard to work on some websites. It was actually very good because I did a lot of analysis tests, a lot of performance tests on a lot of client websites, and it was really good to actually see which websites I would stay browsing on and which ones I actually just said, no, I can't do this anymore. And you might say, yeah, Debbie, we're all not going to go on a 16-day cruise, and that's fair enough, you know, but we also went to Argentina, we also went to Chile, we went to the Falkland Islands, and their internet was terrible as well. And if you go to some places in Germany and in Australia and some place in America, they also have terrible Wi-Fi. I don't know what it's like in Amsterdam. Maybe you all have fantastic Wi-Fi, but most places don't. So seriously, performance is key so that everyone can access the internet. So seriously, I want you to seriously think about using static sites. And my question for you is, are you Nuxt? Because we are. And seriously, seriously think about places like Antarctica, because they're here today, and if we keep going the way we're going, it's not going to be here in a couple of years' time. So seriously, try and think about creating static sites to protect our environment, and most of all, try and make sure your websites are as performant as possible so that they're accessible to absolutely everyone in the world, even the penguins. Thank you. And if you like listening to me and you want to listen to me for the rest of your life, you get 1 month for free with Vue School. Scan it now. You've got an hour or two left. Okay. You want me to, what? You want me to dance? Seriously? Seriously? You seriously want me to dance? Okay. I'm only doing this for you, Sebastian. You know that, yeah? I can't dance at all, so okay. All right. Can I have some music, maybe?
I'll tell my ma when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. They pull my hair, stole my comb, but that's all right till I go home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle of Belfast City. She is a cartoon, the 1, 2, 3. Please won't you tell me who is she?
Okay, so Sebastian, am I now officially a team member? Yes. Yes. Thank you very much.